Okay, I'll call this meeting to order. Is there any public input? Okay. So first on the agenda, we will have the tech presentation from Lakeway.
I just first want to thank our three students, Andrew Smith, Aiden Moore, and Anthony Brooks, for coming and helping us out. They actually are teaching us everything that we know about the I'm very good at what they do, so thank you guys.
Thank you for inviting us here to share about our Chromebooks and the new opportunities they have given us. We are very lucky to be able to use this technology to enhance our learning at any point during the school day. Using our Chromebooks makes learning more interesting, and they allow us to practice and improve our technology skills daily. A few of the benefits of our Chromebooks are: we have the ability to access all the digital features that our new Reading Wonders program provides. Students can collaborate with each other as we work on writing projects or slideshow presentations together, each on our own device. Using Google Docs and Google Slides, students can collaborate with their teachers as we receive real-time feedback on our writing and projects. Learning is more fun and engaging when our teachers include activities such as Kahoot to review our learning objectives at the beginning of or end of a lesson. Here are a few quotes from our fellow sixth graders. Students were asked to finish this sentence. Since we started using the Chromebooks, here are some responses. We have more fun learning. It is easier for me to pay attention. We have done a lot more with the Wonders program. We use Google Drive, Docs, and Slides. We can work collaboratively on a project. Now, we will briefly show you a few ways we use our Chromebooks.
So one of the main things that we've been doing with our Chromebooks is using them to access more of the Reading Wonders program, like Andrew said. We have interactive lessons and activities, teacher-led or independently done by the students. Students can take their assessments online, which gives them practice taking them in the same format as the Smarter Balance test. Assessment details are immediate with reports that break down the data, giving information on individual students and the class as a whole. We can get reports such as question item analysis and proficiency charts for each student, or showing a cumulative or just on one particular assessment, and then we can use that to drive instruction at a further date. Andrew's logged on to his ConnectEd, his personal ConnectEd site right now, and he can click on the to-do and different activities or assignments or even assessments that have been assigned to him will come up, and we as teachers can either have them tell them when to do it, or if they have free time, they can go and work on activities that they know they need to get done. And why don't you go back to home and click on this one.
First, no?
No, sorry. Oh, yeah. So they can go on the words to know and practice the vocabulary that we have for the week, and then using that along with the activities, practice the vocabulary using activities or games. Go to the books. And then each week, the stories that we're reading pop up, and whether it is a leveled reader that they're using or our anthology, they can access that for further work.
And also with the anthologies they can be heard, they have the option, there is the ability to be able to listen to the stories as well.
Okay.
Okay. guys want to pull up your slide. So the other great thing that we're finding with this is with writing. It's being able to collaborate with the students. So Aiden and Andrew are currently working on a piece that they're pulling up right now, and hopefully we'll all be able to interact together, and you can see how this works. And the great thing about this too is when you have students that are a little bit shy and whatnot, that you can kind of approach them from a little bit behind the scenes and then draw them in and pull them over and start working with them to just revise and edit and whatnot. It also gives me the opportunity, I can comment on the side. Are you guys up? You guys are in?
Yeah.
So you can, if you guys want to continue to write, you can. I know you're probably not going to be able to think right now, but, so if I want to leave a comment, all right, I can add something here. I can make a statement, your work is going well, and then post it. So it's coming up as not, this is Harkless because this is her computer. If it were me, it would come up as me. So, and then the other thing that I can do is I can go into this editing button here and go into suggesting. And this is newer for me. I just am finding this. And that's the other thing that I think we're noticing too, is that we're really learning as we're going through this with them. And a lot of times the students are finding it for us, and then we're able to develop it further. So you can see where Aiden is typing, his name is in pink, and then if I wanted to go in and suggest something, I might, take a look and let's say, add a sentence here. Or if it's something to do with a certain writing strategy that we're working on, or if we're working on punctuation or whatever it is. And so they can see what I'm doing and they can go back and take a look. And then I can comment on that also. The other great thing is that we can be in 2 different rooms in doing this. I've had students even email me personal work from their own laptops. So this, it just gives us also the opportunity to monitor them while we're working. I find that their writing has gotten really a little bit lengthier and a little bit more in depth. And so and then these two decided to write this story together. So they're actually working on this at the same time.
On different devices.
On different devices right now. So, and then the other thing, so I'm gonna log you guys off. So if you guys are okay with that, I'm not gonna click out of this.
You can keep working.
Yeah, you guys keep working. We've got to get this done. It's due tomorrow. No. Can I find the other one? The ancient cert. So this is a completed project of 2 students, Cassidy Ardolino and Destiny Marlin. And I just shared all this with her before we got going to have it on her computer, so we'll just give it a minute for it to come up. So just to give you an idea of being able to have this kind of technology in front of us, which has been so great, because they're able to research, they're able to, do their writing, and they're able to do their creativity, and then, do the presentation, and take it that much further, as we learned at that, we were kind of looking at each other, taking it not just to where they're just writing like they're doing, but also taking it to that creativity level of doing this. So I'm going to just run this. I hit slide to run it, correct? Mm-hmm. And are you sure? No, I don't hit slide. What? Oh, yeah, I'm thinking of. So if you watch this, you can see that not only, I'm only going to do a few slides because it's really quite lengthy. There we go. So they're using the technology, as you can see. I want to go back to this slide. They also were able to, in their research, insert a video that explained. So not only are they learning, but they also are and researching, but they're collaborating. So these 2 girls did this together on 2 different devices, as well as I was commenting and helping them with editing and research and whatnot. And
And what's great is we've learned so much already, both students and teachers, and we've really only scratched the surface.
Yeah.
We have so much more to learn and to play with and to do.
And then I think the last thing.
And speaking of playing, so Andrew had mentioned the Kahoot, and
wanna
it's
set that up?
sure it's just a
So
really
you guys want to pull up your Kahoot?
yeah, I will. It's a fun way to. I usually use it at the end of
they need to
the end
see
of class to kind of get a pulse on if the kids understood what the learning objective is.
Can you see?
And
So Mrs. Harkless developed just a one-question Kahoot, just so you could see how Kahoot works. And they're gonna log in a minute. And normally there's this great music that's beating, and everybody's getting excited. And there's a bit of a race to you get more points if you get in sooner. And we just did a whole thing with
speed and
histograms,
accuracy.
and so they're gonna type in their game pin number, and they're gonna give themselves a nice name. Gentlemen.
Today, this afternoon, our Kahoot was on pronouns and antecedents. So today it'll be a little bit.
And
more
half the
fun.
fun for me is watching what the names are going to be, because they come up with some pretty.
Okay,
funny-
ready? Nope. Don't answer really quickly.
Yeah, remember.
Think about it first.
Yeah, it's a tough
Okay.
question. This is probably harder than anything we've studied all year, but we think you might be able to handle it. So there's this music it gets fun.
And in my classroom, you sure do know.
Yeah, right.
Think about
Somebody's
Miss Clish's
baby's
baby
boy. Okay, you guys can
Okay,
speed
you
it up
can
a little
answer.
bit.
You got the answer.
All right, we have one more waiting in. Okay,
Oh, somebody got it
two.
wrong.
Oh,
Okay, so after the question, you can see how they did. And it just kind of gives you an overall idea of whether the class as a whole understood what they were supposed to understand or not. And it's fun. They love it. They beg to play.
And then
So-
go to the next, so you can, does the next do anything on this? It's only one question.
And then
so
it
it'll
goes,
tell us who won.
yes. And it keeps an ongoing score.
Aiden, you won.
So.
And that's just a small example, so we're just starting to look into, there's a bazillion apps out there, it's almost overwhelming right now, but. And I think, you made in the top 5, there you go. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's great.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, you can log off.
Any questions for him now? Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Makes me wish I was in 6th grade again.
Yeah. We had a blast with it. I should go to board meetings like that. Okay, I think you people are going to have loads of fun learning, and it's great. So I guess,
Thank you
thank you.
all very
Yeah,
much.
thanks for coming. Yeah.
I want to play.
Bye-bye.
Bye, thank you.
Good job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks very much.
Okay, ESOL.
Yes. Is it okay if you present from here, or would you like me to?
Right up front with the rest of them.
Well, you want me to hold your hand, or? I've asked Danielle Cook and Stephanie Smith, who are our ESOL teachers in the district, to come and present on the ESOL programs that we have. Danielle is the teacher at Lakeway, and Stephanie is the teacher here at the middle and high school. And over the last 3 years, they've worked really hard at developing a program for ESOL instead of just a tutorial service or, little homework help, things like that. They meet monthly as a PLC of 2, and then every other month I meet with them as well, and we talk about program needs, the testing. But really what I've asked them to do is just kind of highlight what ESOL is and the population that we serve, the different languages that we have in Littleton, and just some snippets about their program.
Kelly, before they begin, would you explain to the folks who are watching on television what ESOL is?
It's
I
on
can
that.
take care of
That's good.
that.
I'll take care of
It's in their brochures. And
So to,
I do
start?
have- Yep.
I'll just
Go
start.
ahead.
So to start off, sorry about my voice, I'm sick at the time. We made a brochure. We had a brochure previously, and Stephanie and I have updated it and made it a little bit more up to date and up to par, because we now have wider English language development standards. So we wanted to include that to update everything. So the brochure was created basically for parents, teachers, and staff to understand what the ESOL program is. That was our main objective. It talks about what ESOL is, English for speakers of other languages, a program that teaches students from different home languages or backgrounds to become proficient in English and in learning English. The acronym ELL means English Language Learner. That's something we use daily. And why do we have the ESOL program? Goals are to prepare students for academic success in all content areas, as well as assist them in becoming lifelong English language learners. So the brochure is pretty.
And so anytime a student registers in Littleton, as part of the registration packet, they have a home language survey, and they're to know which languages are spoken in the home. And so if there's any language other than English that's spoken in the home, that referral goes to the teachers, and then they can talk about what they do from there.
And it's not just parents that come in that have no English language themselves, but it's also a student who may speak English but have parents that speak another language in their home fluently. So I have some students in my program that actually speak English at school all day and go home and speak another language with their parents. So I'm going to start. So I'm Lakeway. I'm K through 6. I have 20 students presently. 17 are receiving instructional services. 3 are monitored. Monitored basically means that they've passed the access test and that they're either in year 1 after passing it or year 2. Once they've tested out, basically would be after that second year of monitoring. We'll make sure that they're fine by themselves and can go on and have academic success on their own.
And the access test is the state test that they have to take every year.
I got that.
Oh, you have it in
I
there?
got
Oh,
it in
sorry.
there. That's all right. So languages we have at Lakeway are Korean, Spanish, we have Hindi students, we have Chinese, Cambodian, Portuguese, Italian, Russian, Vietnamese, Japanese, and French. So most of my instruction, all of my instruction is data-driven, and it's based according to the WAPT test, which is the test that we do when the student comes in to assess their language learning and their understanding of the English language. If they come out to a certain level, then we know they need to have ESOL services, and we provide it or offer it at that time. Everything is parent permission based, so we send a letter home to the parent saying your child has come up in need of services, and if the parent says yes, I would like services, then we begin service. We also have the access test, which is also a form of the data that drives our instruction, and the access test is yearly given. This year they started a computer-based program this year with the access testing. It was a little bit tense and a little rough. We chose to do the paper this year, and we'll put our time and energies towards this upcoming year to put it onto the computer, especially when we have such great technology coming in. So we'll be able to utilize that well. Some other things, I know at Lakeway, I also not only service academic needs, but I also service social and behavioral as well. If students have, you'll see more, I think, at the Lakeway site. High school has different things that you see socially, but down at Lakeway, you want them to be able to be getting along with students. And I had one student that came in, just different things that happened. We want them to be able to play and understand. And even though there's that language difference, you'll find they get along and they understand, even having that other language fully speaking and happening. They tend to understand each other. It's really absolutely fascinating. So then we collaborate and communicate with, all the individual teachers and grade level teams. Technology is a huge factor, and we're integrating that and excited about that. The 6th grade team actually spoke about Wonders. Wonders has an ESL component, and I do use that. That's great. It's also some technology that has the ESL piece that I actually have just started to use with one of my students. I also have a student who they do Wonders in the 1st grade on the iPad. They have an assessment, and my student was having difficulties with the iPad, and so it was nice to be able to have the paper product, to be able to have the student take the assessment on the paper and to see the comparison between how he does on the iPad versus the assessment on paper, and that way we get a better understanding of where they truly are with the Wonders program. I have English language instruction, my services that I provide. I have core literacy instruction, which would be focusing on listening, speaking, reading, and writing, which are the 4 key components of ESL. And I do have students that when they come and they have no other language but their native language, that's the course they would take with me, and I would provide instruction in. I have one-on-one individual-based instruction for several reading strategies. Fluency, vocabulary, writing, comprehension are some of the few. I also work with the rest of the school during an RTI time, which is response to intervention, and I am part of that Tier 2, which is small group settings. I have anywhere from 2 to 5 students. And again, several strategies. We work on several strategies in reading, comprehension, fluency, writing. I tend to like to cross the curriculum with my instruction so that they have a better understanding maybe of social studies and science when they're in the classroom setting and they're not with me. I also have morning and afternoon support where they can come in for daily checks and homework, missed assignments if they've been absent, social needs, behavioral needs, or any other assistance needed in the classroom. I have a homework support group, and it's as needed. It's not every day, but it's when they need it. And I also assist with assessments. I'm currently helping 4th grade assist with Smarter Balance, and my students will come down and they'll be able to have a smaller setting and have the time they need or the quiet setting that they're used to being in regularly on a daily basis. The other thing I started, which is kind of a passion of mine, which stretches beyond just the Lakeway home, is I've had students that have been with me maybe through 6th grade, and they come back and ask me to help with college research and support, and that's kind of a passion of mine. I really enjoy doing that. So I've helped 2 different 12th graders from Littleton High School, research the areas of interest in a major. Help them find schools with that major in it, college essay writing support, gathering letters of recommendation, assisting in the application process, support with scholarship and financial aid understanding, as well as my favorite part is when they get into the college and they let me know and we get to celebrate a little bit. Some of the assessments that I have in my program are running records, benchmarking, sight words, many of the same things that regular ed teachers have. I do the same ones. And again, I spoke about the ESL assessments. The placement test when they're coming into the school is the WAPT, and the mandated yearly access test, which is the assesses English language proficiency in the 4 domains of listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So that's the guy.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm Stephanie Smith. I'm the ESL teacher up here at Daisy Brownson Middle School and Littleton High School. Currently, we have 17 students listed as ELLs. 9 of these are receiving services. 5 of them are in the monitoring status, year 1 or year 2. And we do have 3 students whose parents have declined services. Parents always can make the choice whether they want their students to receive ESL services or not. This is a legal obligation. So sometimes a parent opts out because they'd like their student perhaps to be able to take other electives or do other things instead of taking ESL services. So we do have 3 here who are parent declined services. The home languages of the population up here are Spanish, Portuguese, and Vietnamese. And we have 5 7th graders, 1 8th grader, 5 9th graders, 3 10th graders, 2 11th graders, and 1 12th grader in the population. What I have tried to do up here, I've only been here 3 years, And when I came on board, we actually had a very unique situation where we actually had newcomers coming straight from their countries. I think this is one of the first times this had ever happened up here. And these newcomers had zero knowledge of English. So what I tried to create was something called a sheltered instruction transitional program. Sheltered instruction basically means that I take them out of mainstream English and I provide the services, both the English language learning services plus the ELA skills services as a combination, with the goal of transitioning them from beginner, intermediate to advanced, and then out into the mainstream. That's the transitional piece. So I've created already 2 levels of this transitional program. I've done a beginner newcomers level and an intermediate level, which I'm currently teaching both to different students this year. And the focus is on all of the language domain skills, which is listening, speaking, reading, writing, plus critical thinking. I'm also offering 2 separate one-on-one individualized instruction blocks, and in these 2 classes I am focusing on reading skills and reading strategies predominantly, with some writing support along with it. I do a group-directed study, and this is a group of students who I call the long-term ELLs, meaning that they were born in this country, they have parents or a heritage language spoken in the home, so they've been through the school system all their lives in English. However, they still may have areas of weakness based on the access testing scores that we get yearly. So I always use the access testing data to focus on the skills they need the most support in. So currently in my focus-directed study, I am working on reading comprehension strategies, reading study skills, and writing. Those are the main focuses in that. I've also created an online Odysseyware course, which is a supplemental piece that I am working with my intermediate group to help fill in the achievement gap we're dealing with. Sometimes in the ELL population, you may be dealing with students who have limited formal schooling or interrupted formal schooling, so there are sometimes gaps in their content area knowledge. That could be math, that could be science, that could be social studies. So currently I've created an ESL program, so a supplemental ELA study skills Odysseyware course, which is done in our directed learning center. I also offer homework support twice a week after school for my students if they feel that they really need some extra help in either their English classwork or in other content area classwork. And I work very hard to communicate with the mainstream teachers of these students. I offer mainstream course content support. That might mean creating graphic organizers and study aids for like biology or some other like math class, glossaries. I help them with study strategies, organizational strategies, obviously vocabulary strategies and development, critical thinking strategies. I offer tutoring, and I have also gone in and observed. I've done some mainstream class observation to see how the students are functioning within that environment, and offering ideas and suggestions in meetings with mainstream teachers on how we can best support our students at the high school, especially at the high school level. So that's it. That's about what I do up here at the high school and the middle school.
Great.
Any questions? Do you have any questions for us?
Sounds like they have a lot of work to do.
You're doing a great job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very informative, thank you.
Okay, back to the agenda. I hear a motion to accept the minutes of March 9th.
So moved.
Do you hear a second?
Second.
Any errors or corrections? Have one. Page 3, Roman numeral 7, first paragraph, the second sentence, this community, I think it's supposed to be this committee, will systematically investigate possible sites. That's the only correction I have. Anything else? Do I hear a motion to accept as amended?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Okay, business report. The manifests are going around. Financial report, Tom?
Excuse me, we have a treasurer's report for the end of February, which was in your package. For the month, we started with $2,152,000. Had receipts of $624,000, a little bit of interest, disbursements of $1,473,000, which left us with a balance at the end of February of $1,303,093.35. Attached to that page was the year-to-date information. There were no significant receipts. The only noteworthy one is the qualified school construction bond reimbursement from the Treasury Department, which was subject to sequestration of 7%, thereabouts. So that takes care of our second reimbursement payment for the year.
And I noticed that DIP rent account is gone?
Has been zeroed.
Has been zeroed?
As you directed, yes.
Right. And when did that happen? Because I missed that totally.
The transfer actually occurred during February.
Okay.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
We had used those funds for the SAU building and just hadn't
Right.
hadn't reimbursed the general fund for it. So it's-
Okay.
In the financial summary, the expenditures continue to go according to schedule. What we're showing on the report this month for expenditures includes anticipation for amounts not yet encumbered, not yet spent, but expected to be spent between now and the end of the year. And that number is $545,000 in addition to what we already have booked. So that leaves the total expenditures that are estimated to be $155,000 under the budget by the end of the year. And the next page is revenue, which is showing some shortfalls. At this point, we're projecting a revenue shortfall of $104,000 and a projected fund balance of $70,768. One revenue piece that was in question is no longer. When I spoke with you this morning about the adequacy aid, said we didn't know the final numbers yet. We did receive the final numbers from the state today, and it is as was projected in October. There'll be no change from that previous number.
So that's the $3,541,000?
Yes.
Okay.
So that is a good number for this year. The last payment will be in April.
Okay. I have a proposal for the board that we freeze the budget and have the superintendent and the business administrator take a very close look at further expenditures. And if you are in approval with that, I would like a
I'm
motion.
fine with that.
Sure. I'm fine with that.
Okay, would you make a motion then, please? Whatever.
So I make a motion to propose, I make a motion that the board have the,
Freeze the budget.
sorry, I make a motion to freeze the budget. Propose that the board have the superintendent and the business administrator take a very close look at further expenditures and report back to the board.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, thank you. Next on the agenda is the presentation of the ALICE program by Chief Smith and Sergeant Gardner. Again.
Good afternoon, evening. Thanks for having us back.
You're welcome.
I wanted to come back here again to hopefully get the board to give some direction to the superintendent and the staff so we have a better direction. It's almost Fisher Cup 8 time. We need to train the officers and we need to train the staff and coordinate that, and we're running out of time because our goal would be to get this initiated before the next school year, have everybody up and running. So I'm going to say a few words, and then Sergeant Gardner has some additional information. But we're going to kind of forego, using my discretion, forego the videos and the violence that we saw last time. It can be quite traumatic. The reality is those things do occur, but we certainly don't want to keep repeating it here and watching it over and over again. We watched it last time, so if you just want to pass those out. Sure. I think there are 5. And before we get into that, I did want to just make one comment that CopSync should be online today. And the state, actually, there's a Senate bill right now that's been proposed, and they want to establish a committee to study the real-time threat notification systems like we already have. So I just want to say that the district's ahead of the ballgame on that, and I really do appreciate that because we certainly want to keep the students and staff safe. But, you know, most importantly, we just don't want to lose sight of the fact that what we're doing today and what we're proposing is not new. It was instituted right after Columbine. The sergeant's going to talk about some instances there. But most importantly, it's under direction of the federal government, and we want to follow suit. So following our last presentation, I became what they call a CRAZE instructor, which is it's a program offered by the Department of Justice, and it's civilian response to active shooter events. So basically, my training and experience is primarily in the adult world, outside of a school environment, and the sergeant's training and experiences for the school environment. But essentially, the responses are exactly the same. So what the school district currently has in place are 7 response codes that are mandated by the Department of Homeland Security, essentially to take care of all the different types of incidents that occur. For example, there's a shelter in place if there's some type of an event going on outside a tornado or something like that. We have things for bomb threats, but most importantly, what people hear about all the time are lockdowns. And lockdowns are specific to an active shooter event. And that is when the bad guy, the one that wants to harm everybody, is actually in the school or trying to breach into the school. So, what is an active shooter event? Well, essentially, an active shooter event is an attempted mass murder. So what we're dealing with isn't somebody who's upset and in the school, but an active shooter event is an attempted mass murder. And we've proven nationally, I shouldn't say proven, but statistically, once the event starts and the phone calls go in, it takes around 3 minutes, once the police are notified, nationally the average for them to respond to deal with the situation. Once we get there, nationally, statistically, the police can terminate the threat fairly quickly. There are 3 different ways that can happen. Either we take the individual into custody, the individual is shot by the police, or the individual takes his or her own life. But once that happens, the loss of life essentially stops, and the situation is, in most cases, under control. But it's those critical 3 minutes that we want the students and the staff to be safe and be able to respond to a situation appropriately. So the district has allowed us to put in those 7 response codes, with lockdown being the one to deal with this, and that helps initially. It puts everybody in a locked classroom or a locked room, tells them to be quiet and wait for further assistance. But I really believe that we're doing those individuals a disservice, because in 3 minutes, that individual is trying to find as many people as he can or she can for an attempted mass murder. They're not going to sit around and shake doors. They're going to break into rooms. They're going to find people, and the realistic part of it is they're going to kill them. And it doesn't matter if it's a child, if it's an adult, man, woman, they're going to kill them. Now, if you look in the second page of the handout, it says shooter connection. So what that basically means is the person that comes in, by the way, primarily the firearm that's used the most is a handgun. 70% of the time a handgun is used. There's essentially 50-50 connection or no connection to whether the shooter knows the people that they're going to harm. So, does that mean that we know who this person could be? Probably not. There's no profile, except the fact that they have an Avenger mindset. There might be some broadcast on social media ahead of time, but the individual's deliberate, focused, they're detached. And as we know, many of them kill themselves when they're confronted by the police. But again, that could be 3 minutes. And we want to give the individual, we want to give the students and staff some tools to use beyond lockdown. They don't have to use them. And I want to reiterate that. We want to give them the training and tools that if they choose to, they can use it beyond lockdown, beyond hiding in the corner out of sight and sound. So, since 2000 to 2014, there have been 179 active shooter incidents in the United States. That's a lot, and they are on the increase. That's the reality of the world that we live in today, and we have an obligation to train everybody and give them the tools necessary to make sure everybody can get out of one of these events alive and safe. And just so you know, about a little bit over 50% of those active shooter events take place in commerce, big box stores, places like that. 24% occur in educational environments. About 13% happen outside, and then there's other, around 10%. That could be a government building or something like that. So in my training, which is it's the same philosophy as the sergeants, but we use the words avoid, deny, and defend. Alice is a little bit different with the lockdown, but the concept is the same. But you'll see on the flow chart on the last page. This kind of sums it up. When the attack starts, if there's an exit that somebody can take to get away, to go to a rally point, they should take it. If not, deny that individual the ability to get any further, and still try to find exits or ways that you can get away. And then the last part is, if you can't flee and you have no exits, what are your options in defending yourself? You're going to be able to barricade yourself into a room, put a bunch of file cabinets up, or you're going to be able to crawl through a window, but you got to think of a way to defend yourself, because we want people to be armed with that information so that hopefully they can terminate the situation and they can walk away from it safely. So just to leave you, before the sergeant takes over with his part with Al, I have a 2014 study. So when we first started talking about Alice here, it was only a year old, from the FBI. And the FBI has basically said that, the police departments nationally have done a great job in responding to active shooter events. In fact, we're getting better on how we're doing it. We're much smarter. As you guys know, because you allowed us to train in your school, we use some staff members here. We try to hone our skills, and we have really good tactics on how to get there and terminate that threat. But also important, it's what we need to do to help civilians protect themselves during the last 3 minutes, or that 3-minute time period. And they highly recommend that the run, hide, fight mentality be utilized for civilians to use. School districts, commercial buildings. Run, hide, fight is the same as avoid, deny, and defend, and it's the same as Alice. So it's all the same philosophy, and it's what the federal government is asking us to do today. So I'm going to let the sergeant give you some more information. And then again, I'm asking the board to please come to a consensus to allow us to go forward with this training so we can get everybody safe in the district.
Thank you, Chief. So I have a couple packets, and I'll just hand those out right now.
Thank you.
I happen to have 5 packets, and there are 5 people at the table, so it's about perfect. Thank you. Just amazing what we're. I would like to say before I start with my piece on it, I'll give you 2 paper clips. We had 2 real good opportunities to train. The first one was we actually had a malfunction of the system at the elementary school, which caused a lockdown that no one knew what exactly was going on, while I personally was working with some other officers. And that was interesting because we learned some stuff about our own response there that we don't normally get, because on a lockdown drill we're already at the school. Thankfully there was nothing going on, it was just a malfunction with an alarm. The second one is we recently had the opportunity here to train, and that was truly amazing, and thank you for that. I've had obviously a little bit extra training on this, but a lot of the other officers, they've heard me talk about it, but it's the first time we're going into the environment and actually responding to a threat. So the first document I've handed out is an excerpt from a guide for developing high-quality school emergency operations plans. And I have the entire document, which I'll leave over here too, but it's 70-something pages, so I didn't print it all out for all of you. But there's a full copy and let's look at it. Now this is a 2013 document, and it was put together by the Department of Education, Department of Homeland Security, FEMA, Department of Justice, the FBI, and the Department of Health and Human Services. Now in the excerpt, I have pages 64 through 66. Now what that will tell you is that all those agencies are recommending that you have an action plan for an active shooter that includes run, hide, and fight. Those are the words they use there. And that's the order also of preference. The federal government studies the guidelines coming down, although they're not requirements yet, they're just suggestions. The first thing we want to do is, if we know where the threat is and we can get out safely, to evacuate. If we don't know, the second thing we want to do, if we can't evacuate, is we want to hide. We want to lock down, we want to barricade doors, we want to make ourselves as safe as possible. So first is run, second is hide. In the case of Alice, it would be evacuate and lock down. The third choice is in there, it's a fight, and they tell you that's not ideal. But that's what would happen if, say, right now, someone in the audience had a gun and started shooting. Okay? We would try to get out. Lockdown wouldn't be an option. We're already in the room. Okay? I'm going to talk about that a little bit in a second. The second document is Active Shooter, How to Respond. It's a 2008 document by the Department of Homeland Security. And again, in order, its 3 options are to evacuate, hide out, and take action against the intruder. Okay? Again, run, hide, fight. With fight being a possibility, but not preferred. The next ones are, I apologize, the first one's actually Wikipedia is my source. I was unable to find news pieces on it that cover the whole story. However, I have been trained on this particular event, and I will tell you that the Wikipedia is accurate. And it's Thurston High School. On May 20th, I'm going to avoid using the names of these shooters. I do know most of them. I choose not to because I'm not going to give them any more fame or infamy than they already have. But the shooter purchases a stolen handgun from one of his friends. His friend stole a handgun from his father, sold it to him. The school finds out, starts looking for the gun. Kid admits to it. He is suspended. They get the gun. He is suspended pending expulsion, which is probably inappropriate. action by the school. That student goes home. His father tells him he's going to be going to military school if he doesn't straighten his act out. He goes, gets a gun, kills his father, waits for his mother to get home, kills her. Sleeps in the house. The next morning shows up at school. Okay? Unfortunately, when he shows up, before school, the kids are in the cafeteria. He shows up with 2 knives, 2 handguns, and a rifle, and over 1,000 rounds of ammunition. Walks into the school, fires 2 rounds in the patio, and then fires the remaining 48 rounds in his rifle in the cafeteria. He hits with 37 out of the 50 shots he takes, wounds 24 people and kills 2. One of the students he shot, one of the students who was wounded, actually gets up when he's trying to reload and tackles him. When that happens, 6 other students jump on as well. They are able to disarm and subdue the student until police arrive. So all those casualties, but he was able to be stopped, again, by action right there. So not ideal. Okay, ideally we want the students to run, we want the students to hide. But when you're in that cafeteria, there has to be another option. The next news story is about Bill Badger. Now it's talking about his death. He died at 78 and is unrelated to what I want to talk about, but he is a hero. Bill Badger was in the grocery store parking lot in January of 2011 when Representative Gabby Giffords was shot. Okay? Shooter showed up at the rally, pulled out a gun, wounded 13 people, killed 6 people. The people wounded included Representative Giffords as well as Bill Badger, who was 75 years old at the time. He was shot in the head. When the shooter attempted to reload, the shooter was hit by another gentleman with a chair, and then 75-year-old Army veteran Bill Badger jumped on top of him, brought him to the ground with another individual, and held him there until police could arrive. Chardon High, February of 2012. This is an interview from 60 Minutes of Coach Frank Hall. Again, students are all in the cafeteria before class. The student walks in and opens fire. He has 10 rounds in his magazine, kills 3 students and wounds 3 others. Coach Frank Hall, as soon as he starts shooting, begins to charge the shooter. The shooter is unable to reload, decides to run out, and he's chased down the hall by Coach Hall and is chased out of the school. There are 47 seconds between the first shot being fired and the shooter leaving the school. And is unable to reload because of Coach Hall's heroics. Again, not in a great place, but taking action. Perry Hall High School, August of 2012. Student entered the cafeteria with a shotgun. Fires 2 shots. He fires 1 shot, hitting another student who's critically wounded. And when that happens, teachers rush him. The second shot is fired rather harmlessly as they're subduing him. So again, in a place you can't run, you can't hide, you're right there. There's nothing more to do. September of 2012, Normal Community High School. 14-year-old student takes his class hostage. During that time, some of the students run out of the room, which make the student with the gun angry. He fires 1 round into the ceiling. He then puts the gun down and turns around for a second. At that point, the teacher, seeing an opportunity, charges across the room, grabs the gun. There's another shot fired while they're fighting over the gun, but is able to subdue the student until police arrive. Again, in that one, no one was hurt. Now, I'm going to contrast that. And those are all, I'd like to point out, adults, or at the very least a high school student, countering physically, okay? However, it's important that we have this option for our younger kids as well. And the last item there is about Sandy Hook. Sandy Hook is obviously more recent memory and somewhat more televised than some of these items. In Sandy Hook, there were 6 adults killed and 20 students aged between 6 and 7. 14 of those students were killed in the first room that the shooter went into. That was 100%, all 14 students in that room. As hard as it may be to hear, that's why we need to teach even our young kids not to just sit and hide. If the threat's in the room, get out. Okay? Run, scream, get outside and run. Okay? My biggest fear is that, hopefully this never occurs here. My biggest fear is it does, and when it does, we won't be as prepared as we should be. I do have a child's book written by a children's author about the ALICE program, written at their level, not to scare them, about what to do, as well as an activity guide for the teachers that if the board's interested in seeing, I can certainly leave with you as well, to give you an idea of what ALICE training would look like. From my side, I would not be training any students whatsoever. I would train faculty. It would be the teacher's job to instruct, just like they instruct on a fire drill, what occurs in the case of an active shooter event. Okay, so, if we're going to lock down, this is what we're going to do. Okay? So that would be age appropriate and delivered by someone who's trained to instruct children. As always, my presentations are...
Reluctantly.
I know. I apologize for that. I tried to keep it as factual. And of course, I did provide all the articles you can read in more depth if you want each of those events.
Is there any result or proof that any training has taken place previously? Is there any documentation that shows that training in this level and this procedure is working?
I don't have the specifics handy, but yes. And I think it might actually be Coach Hall's school, but there is actually a school in Ohio that's had 2 active shooter events.
Mm-hmm.
And in the interim, they were trained in ALICE, and it was stopped by an active.
They had ALICE training prior.
In between. And
they had a shooter.
I don't recall if it, no, they had a shooter, then ALICE training, then another shooter.
Oh.
And I don't know if it's Coach Hall off the top of my head. I'd have to do some more research on that. But the second time, it was a very low casualty because of immediate action by its staff member in a counter-type situation. And I can do some more research to figure out the exact school. It's actually difficult to find some success stories because the news media is going to report on the giant tragedies, not the student who shows up and is immediately stopped. Those are harder to find.
So what we want to do is, I know there's some people here who might have some questions, but also just to clarify, we will provide the training to your staff, specific staff, senior administration, whomever they choose, they delegate that needs the training immediately. We can also provide it for, now our class sizes are restricted, but parents, if we could have parents coming in and do some training with us as well as members of the board who would provide training too. And again, I recommend that beyond ALICE being taught by officers of our department, that the board eventually allow the administrators to send some teachers or staff members away to ALICE training, which they have a training here in New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine, allow people within the district to be trained as well, because realistically, it doesn't have to be a police officer that instructs it.
Where do they
And
have to go for that fall, the training?
just throughout the state, there'll be
Oh, throughout
places
the
where
state.
they host the training. There is a cost associated with the training, but it's money well spent. And, you know, again, this is a culture change that the whole district has to embrace, the fact that, you know, even talking about this subject is very sensitive. But realistically, we need to prepare everybody for this type of an event. And we've chosen to use ALICE as our method to do that. But as you can see with the documentation that we've given you, the federal government, the different departments of the federal government want us to be able to provide run, hide, fight philosophy to you. So, are there any questions? I know somebody asked about immediate cost. If it involves more officers than the sergeant and I mean, there could be some minimal overtime costs that are within my budget, or maybe some training aids. But we're not charging anybody anything to do this, just like we don't charge to do any of the drills that we do at the school or our presence here. There would be a cost associated, but I would assume it'd be part of your projected training costs throughout the year that you would do for any staff member if you did choose to train them in ALICE.
Well, in case people don't know, could you just tell people what the acronym stands for?
Yeah, because we said it enough.
The acronym ALICE, the A is for alert, the L is for, watch me spell it wrong. The L is for lockdown, the I is for inform, the C is for counter, and the E is for evacuate. And they don't have to be in that order, it's just so it spells ALICE. The big part of ALICE is the fact that you have your run, fight, or your run, hide, fight as options. And again, the counter is the last ditch option. That's only if you are in immediate danger. In addition, it has the alert and inform, so that as an individual during the event, I know what the threat is, I know where the threat is, or at least I have the best information for them. So for instance, again, if we are in an environment here, if we have we'll say an angry parent with a gun in the front lobby up here, if I'm in auto trades, I know I can get out. Okay, the threat is away, I can evacuate and go to a rally.
Because right now, we're just locking everybody in their rooms. They're waiting for us to show up.
Yeah, and maybe you should mention actually CopSync assists in that form because people can communicate.
Well, absolutely. I mean, the district itself has really enhanced communication with CopSync specifically. Anybody that's logged into CopSync during an event, if they're not actively participating in it, they'll be able to see what's going on. So you might have a teacher that's typing in, the shooter is wearing black clothing and has a handgun and just walked into Mrs. So-and-so's room and I hear gunshots. Everybody else is going to say, well, I know where that person is. And by the way, the vast majority, I think 99% of all these incidents, those 100 and some odd incidents that occurred, one person. So everybody's,
And if the ones that were two persons, which I can think of three right now off the top of my head, and I think those might be the only three, the two people stayed together the entire time.
They don't separate.
We have not statistically had an event with two assailants that were separate.
So back to what Mr. Smith was talking about, CopSync will allow everybody that's logged in to be able to understand what is going on and where it's going on in real time. And we're going to be able to get that information at the same time. Also, because you've enhanced your video surveillance system, everybody should be able to log into it. They can see what's going on. And certainly part of ALICE is somebody getting on the loudspeaker and telling the shooter, I know where you are, the police are coming, I can see you in the library, and we're going to tell them right where you are when they get here. That helps as well. So it's part of the training that they get. Any other questions?
Okay.
Well, I think, and I have minimal training, But in an event, for example, if people were trained, last case scenario or worst case scenario, someone's trying to come in the room, typically we'd be huddled in the corner with students. Maybe a better approach would be an adult right at the door so they could intercept. Things like that may, obviously with training, may save lives.
If they choose to do that.
Exactly.
You choose not to, but your options are, and I don't want to get into the gory details, but when they do sit in the corner, I can tell you what the kill ratio is, and it's pretty high. So what are your options? We want to be able to give everybody the other options, that they might want to be stacked around the door and waiting for that person to breach in and perhaps trip them and fight for their lives. So, and again, it's a very sensitive topic. I know people don't like talking about it, but look at the numbers that I gave you. 179, I believe, incidents that occurred since 2000. That's a lot of active shooter events. And if you look at the graphs, they're going up.
Any comments from
I
the
don't
board?
have a question, but my name is Kristen Lucas. I have 2 students here. One's a freshman, one's 7th grade. And we talk about this all the time. I want my kids to be informed. I want you to say, this is worth it. I want for you to say, my kids are worth it. So I'm all for this program. I'm all for these guys coming in. I understand that it is a sensitive subject, but I think kids need to know. I think my kids need to know what to do. I don't want them to look at this person with a blank stare and be terrified that they're going to get shot. I want them to be able to know, like second nature, to fight for their lives. So I'm asking the school board to really consider this. And I know that there's a lot, unfortunately, there's not a lot of parents here to say, but, please consider this and think about our kids.
I think, I'll speak for myself, it never was a question of if we were going to do something. It was trying to do it the best way that we know how. And we needed to extract everything we could from them so that when it is if it is implemented, that it's done right, because it's your children that we care about. We don't want them in shock because of some training that we've allowed to go on in our schools that isn't done right. It never was a question about safety, Kristen, ever. I'll speak for myself, I'm pretty sure the board. It was how to do it right so that it doesn't, we've got little kids and we've got older ones.
I totally understand.
So
My seventh
I appreciate
grader's terrified of this whole thing.
Right, and I appreciate you
Does not
coming.
want to talk about it whatsoever. But for me, knowledge is power. And I think that these guys have done a tremendous amount of research, and their presentation is very clear, and their intent is very clear, that they don't want to scar these kids. They don't want them going home at night and being terrified to go to school the next day. But I think that they, want these kids to be empowered. We want the school to be empowered against these people.
Is there any other public comments? Rick?
Yeah, I got to attend an all-day training session, actually, on the Sandy Hook incident, and that was with Chief Smith. And it was clear that one of the things that saved lives there, and the ALICE program does, was that ultimately, when the shooter was reloading, some kids said, he's reloading, escape, and then they countered, too. And I think what this program does is it frees up especially the staff to know that they can do those things rather than they have to sit in the corner and wait until the police come through the door. And I think as terrible as it is to start counting bodies, this does save lives. There will be less bodies if we empower the staff especially to take these countermeasures and either escape or to counter. And I think that's the important thing. And working with the PD, I've 100% confidence that they'll do this properly, just as we witnessed what they did in the active shooter training. So I think we're very fortunate to have our PD be very assertive and progressive in bringing this to us.
And I'd like to add Chief Smith will tell you that I was very uncomfortable with the fact we have to do this. But the power of the first Alice presentation showed me that training our adults to react in an appropriate way is really providing the opportunity for increased safety for our kids. And we will, as adults, just as we do with all of the rest of our safety training, be able to craft it in such a way that the kids will respond appropriately. They will be safe, they will be safer, if we can exercise a judgment in the immediate and not be confined to a one-drill-fits-all response. And that's what I see the power here. Cop Sync will get the safety officers here, the police and sheriff's office, sooner. But as we have heard, it's that first 2 or 3 minutes that are going to be so crucial. So I really support this training.
Do you have any comments?
I mean, I'm very much in support of this as well.
Yeah.
If I could, I just have one more thing for the board. Since one of the questions, now I would not be training any children, but one of the questions might be how to do that. A option, a resource they have, is Julia Cook has written a book, and that second one's a teacher's guide, and feel free to look through that. I haven't looked through the teacher's guide completely, but I did just reread the entire book there, and I think it's very age appropriate. You know, it talks about in there, the definitely written at the primary school level, like not a teacher, I can tell you where. But, you know, and it talks that they play a game of sheep, shepherd, and wolf. And they, you know, talk about what to do. And I think it's very age appropriate. I don't think it's very alarmist in nature. And this let the kids know what to do. And that's something the teachers could use to assist them in teaching the children.
Yeah.
Again, it would be similar to teaching them when we hear the fire alarm, you know, this is what we do at the classroom level.
I'd just like to add that I would agree that knowledge is power. As much as we try and shelter, thinking about real young children, they see this stuff on the news. We had the same reservations, I think, when we started talking about lockdowns. You know, we thought that kids would be real anxious going into lockdown and learning about the fact that we're in lockdown for a reason. I think, and I'm not a lightweight, but Rick, you could add, I think our students responded really well, and I think that empowered them, and I think this is the next step.
You know, practicing, you know, for these situations makes you so much calmer, you know, when you have to deal with that. And, when we had the malfunction, you know, we were much calmer in responding to that, and yet none of us knew what it was initially. But we went through the process, and it certainly kept everyone much less agitated, you know.
And that building was as quiet as when the alarm goes off in the middle of summer. I mean, it was very quiet. The kids did a great job.
Well, I would propose that the board adopt Alice and put it into their safety program. And I'm sure you will have debriefings if you do some drills in the future. And let the superintendent work with you folks.
Do we have to take action on that and make it?
I would make it a vote.
You're going to make the vote?
No,
and I'll
you
second
won't.
it? And thank you for coming back. I feel so much better.
You can make the vote.
Well, you know, better
Whatever you want to
feel.
say.
It's a tough
Sure,
topic.
you can do that.
Sure. Okay, go ahead, because she's...
So I'll make a motion that the board adopt the Alice program and work with the superintendent and principals to move forward on the Alice training for staff.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And thanks for the information.
Excuse me.
Okay. Next on the agenda is the superintendent search. We have reopened, as most people know, the search, and we've had 17 applications so far that we'll be checking out. And that's about all I can say at this point in time. Principal search.
The search committee, the screening committee met on Friday and reviewed the interviews of the candidates, and I will be prepared to make a recommendation to the board on April 4th.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I hope the board members have read the elementary school guidelines for the site exploration committee.
Yes.
Any comments about them? I think they're pretty well encompassing.
Yeah, I actually went over it with Leslie.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
So,
If you send this to
so do you want to make a motion to adopt them?
Sure.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to adopt the elementary school site exploration committee guidelines for 2016.
Okay.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. And I would suggest to the board members that on April 4th, be thinking about personnel to be put on this, and we'll discuss them in public session.
Okay.
You want us to come with suggestions?
Yes. Yep. Okay, I guess Kelly, rest of your report?
It was just enrollment, 125 students.
Okay.
Yeah.
Joanne?
So I'll start out with my enrollment, and we're up by 3 students, so we have a total of 338 students, so we've had 3 students enroll since February 8th. And a couple of highlighted items in your packet. In the professional development plans, we are working on a school-wide initiative, which was what we worked on for part of our PD day on Friday. So let me back up, because that is the student showcase, which will be presented on April 5th. That's where all teachers are involved in some way, or form, or fashion, either sponsoring a student or assisting them in presentations and what the students will be doing. They've had some various projects they'll be working on where they'll actually have interactions with the community and be able to show them what they have learned and are able to do as a result of their almost year instruction. It's pretty exciting because I believe it was kind of interesting to hear during our professional development day, actually people laughing and having conversation and planning for this. I think that you'll be very impressed, so I hope that you'll be able to attend. They did work in their vertical teams to plan it first, and then in the afternoon we had a presentation from Landmark College, which was understanding and responding to executive function and ADHD in the classroom, which was also very good. I did include some things that teachers have been working on. Stephanie Potter's attending Echoes and Reflections, a Holocaust remembrance for teachers. Will be on March 23rd in Keene. And Jeremy Brown attended a forum on the Constitution on March 12th in Portland. He's kind of looking for more engaging methods of teaching the Constitution and making it a little bit more exciting for students to be learning about the Constitution. Working with guidance now that our schedule is in place and which was presented to the staff about what was going to be offered. We'll begin starting to schedule students, and after April vacation, Joe Shea will be working with setting aside 3 nights to work with parents and incoming seniors after he's done a credit audit, to find out, make sure they're on track and and everything. And that will also include students who are also, might have some academic issues prior to this graduation. In class climate, I'm going to be attending a Harvard University workshop on March 23rd and 24th. It's called Managing Self and Leading Others. So I've been working on outside readings, and it's an excellent opportunity to network with other educators, but it's also a workshop that will include business people and people in the workforce, and so I'm pretty excited about that. So I'll be able to share with you next time about what that was about. And also that the Administrative Advisory Committee, the leadership team, is currently reviewing their purpose and how they can better support the administration. So they'll be looking at developing a little bit more on their charter. Parent and school and community connection. As you know, the teams, the girls varsity basketball team were runners-up positions during their season, and our boys varsity basketball team were state champions. And that was pretty exciting to see everybody down there. People kind of come out of the woodwork for that, but it was really exciting for the kids and to see everybody and the alumni present. So we were a host for the North Country Music Festival on March 15th, and I'm going to introduce Chrissy Noyes to talk a little bit about what that was about.
Yeah, so we had about 180 students and teachers here last Tuesday from Linwood up, and the students were nominated by their directors. So it's usually the top members of their ensembles in their high school band and chorus. And they were nominated back in October, and the students were selected in November. I selected them, and all the music was sent out in December, and the students have been working on it with their directors at their schools, and then they come together for a one-day rehearsal. So they were all in the building from 9 a.m. was when the first rehearsal started, and actually the chorus rehearsed in here all day, and we had about 70 members in the chorus. And the band rehearsed in the gymnasium, and we had about 95-ish, which was great because none of the ensembles from Linwood North can have a 95-member band, full instrumentation. So it was great that they practiced and rehearsed literally all day, so from 9 to 12, and then they had different breaks throughout the morning. Then we all had lunch in the gymnasium together from 12 to 12:45. And then went right back to rehearsal until about 4 o'clock, and then each group had their own dress rehearsal. And then at 4:40 was when we first started to break for dinner, which was greatly donated by 99 Restaurant. The students had a great meal of hot dogs and hamburgers, and we had parents and faculty members here that donated a ton of dessert. And so we had dinner, and then the concert started at 7 o'clock. And a couple years ago, we had it was before I was here, but there was a student teacher named Jessica Funk, and she was the actual band director for the day. And then we had Catherine Carter, who was the choral director from Groveton, came here, and she worked with the chorus all day. And I know the next day I had a bunch of emails from the directors, and some parents from different towns called me saying that their children had a great time, and they just loved it. And I was actually talking to someone here who was in North Country when she was in high school, and her daughter went to it, and she was really glad that her daughter was able to be here at the festival and be a part of it. So kind of sparked more love for music and enthusiasm. So it was a fun day.
That was great.
Wonderful.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Chrissy.
thank you, Chrissy.
And then in academics, I just included some items. Middle school's been kind of busy they've been working on, Susan Torres' group is working on different organ systems in the human body, and you see some of her activities there. And also 7th grade science class is working on their science farce project, where they're pretending to be a scientist of their choice, and they have to research information using and creating a social media page as if they were alive today. So it should be interesting. That's part of some of the things that you'll be seeing during the student showcase. Sam Woodson's 8th grade science class will be started working on a Mission to Mars project, and Mars for terraforming mission, so that should be interesting. And kids are very interested in astronomy, so more on that a little bit later. And the 8th grade science student showcase activity will be hosting a STEM challenge for attendees, so participants will design and test their own aluminum foil boats, so come join us to create a boat and see if it floats or not. And tomorrow we'll be doing a STEAM unit with Shark Tank, complete with loan sharks. That's in the 9th grade English class, and so I'm hoping to get to see that part of that at 10. There's a presentation at noontime and one at 10 o'clock, so it's kind of exciting, and she's able to bring a lot of disciplines in there, and that's Stephanie Potter's. Mike Severino took his geometry class, and they went to Remick Park and used some trigonometry to measure some heights of objects, so they're out and about doing that. We have a mock presidential election going on. That's the process and going through the checklist, and they have to use their student ID and the whole works, and all of that's going to be videotaped and shown during the student showcase, because those folks will be at a history conference, so it'll be kind of interesting there. And then the sociology class is also going to be using a yearbook activity, kind of bring everything back in, like what was the socialization process of teenagers back in the day kind of thing. So that's their project. Guidance tells me junior class is visiting Plymouth State on March 29th, and then there's also a financial credit workshop for the senior class on April 5th. So hopefully we get them in good shape. But I did want to mention that TSA was also in competition. Al, are you going to mention this too, or because I don't want to steal your thunder? Sorry, I just thought that. Anyway, they had a clean sweep of a lot of awards for TSA, so that's very good for Littleton. And the trophies are in Dragster Design Challenge for a second year in a row. Cameron Polton was in first place finish. Dragster Design Challenge, followed by Elizabeth Fortner in second place, and Rebecca Stewart are finishing third. And Elizabeth Fortner continued also with a first place finish in desktop publishing, and with Joe DePalma finishing first place in CAD 3D Mechanical and second place finish in Technical Sketching Challenge. So all in all, for the chapter, it was very good. So they brought back a lot of awards for Littleton. So we're pretty well represented with awards and academics.
Great.
So
Thank you.
thanks.
Thanks, Joe.
Good evening.
Evening.
So in my report, you see that our goals remain the same, of course. Enrollment remains fairly consistent. However, we picked up 2 students today. They just moved into Linwood, and they wanted to take a program, so we're going to kind of integrate them and prepare them for next year. So our post-secondary connections and industry connections. I did attend a very positive meeting on March 4th at the Department of Education, and where we discussed apprenticeships. You may recall we offer apprenticeships here at night for years in electrical and plumbing, and they're really connected to the economy. When the economy does not do as well, plumbers and electricians just need to hang on to their employees, and they can't because they have quite a commitment if they have an apprenticeship. So we discussed whether or not now's a good time for 2 reasons. The economy seems to be doing much better, and plumbers and electricians aren't getting any younger.
Sure.
So the person who's in charge of apprenticeships at the state is connecting with them to see if there's going to be a need. So stay tuned, maybe we'll be able to offer that in the future. We did receive a call for Hitchners. Unfortunately, their plan here is closing, as we all know, but we did have an offer to go down and see if we could pick up any equipment for our CNC program, or manufacturing program, which we did. And we picked up some great tooling equipment and vices and those types of things. So I really want to thank Hitcher Manufacturing for the offer. As some of you know, you were there. We had our grand opening, a ribbon cutting ceremony for our CNC machines. That happened on March 11th. March 15th, we did attend again. 9th and 10th grade girls did attend the Girls in Technology Day at NHTI, where they were engaged in a number of workshops. So that was a positive experience for them. And we are working on an articulation agreement with Lakes Region Community College for Running Start for our manufacturing program. We actually have a meeting tomorrow afternoon to do that. So that's one of the last things we have to do to petition the state, if you will, for approval of that program, which I've been communicating with them on a regular basis. We did have our last of our workshop days with Southern Regional Education Board on assessment. That was last Friday, so that was a positive experience. And as far as programs, March is a time when we, as a CTC, really try and recruit students for next year, because each of the sending schools are involved in their sign up for next year for courses. So this is the year the time of year we go out. So we're going to Lisbon this Wednesday. We'll be in Groveton the week after that. And then also this month is when we have all our competitions. You heard about TSA. So there's new meaning to March Madness. It's a very busy month. So automotive, we had 3 students, and each club, if you will, it's run a little different in terms of competitions. For auto, they have to take a written exam online and to meet a certain criteria, so not as many students get to go. So we had 3 students who participated in that a week or so ago. And we also had, just go over the competitions right now if I can. In health science, we had our competitions last week, March 17th and 18th. They went to Dartmouth for their competition, and students did very well there. And also on the health science field, I just want to report that 24 students did successfully complete their LMA testing. So I think now we're up to over 240 students who have received their LMA certificates.
That's great.
So that's really good news. And also you heard that we had TSA competition last Thursday and Friday as well, and we did very well. And actually I'm going to ask some of these students to come back at our meeting in April and just report out briefly.
Okay, great, thanks.
So just quickly, in some other programs noteworthy, it's an interesting project, a post and beam construction, this playhouse that they're constructing in construction technology is quite interesting. Just want to report, although we're doing some great things year one in our Essentials of Finance and Global Commerce, I just want to report that very pleased that we're expanding our partnership with the Chamber of Commerce. So we'll be working, their second year students will actually be working, 6 students will be working in a number of stores, M&M Company, GM Photography and Framing, and Northern Lights. We'll be working on their windows displays and working on the owners there in terms of what they're trying to market, and so that's kind of interesting. And I forgot to mention teacher education. Their new organization is called Educators Rising. That's the name of the state. What's the national name? That's a new name you may have not heard. It's new this year. and they had their first competition. The former group never had competitions in state, so they had their first ever. And I just want to mention we had a very successful career fair here a week or so ago, and it was really the folks who are in charge of our North Country internship program. For here, it's Connie Ward, and I will tell you, she did most of the work calling companies and businesses. We had 51 people represented, so I really want to thank the people who take time out of their busy day in their businesses to come up here and work with our students. And we also had a really high number of students attend from Lisbon. You know, our students, of course, and a few, actually only 3 from Profile. So hopefully next year they could have more students attend. And just to let you know that we did a lot of work, background work here with our students in our advisories, trying to prepare them, because all the careers are set up in career clusters, so they could associate careers of programs, and it was very well done. And I think students got a lot out of it, so that was a nice job.
Great.
And again, 51 people took the time to come up, so that's fantastic.
Wonderful.
What I take from all those reports and the different things going on, it's
Mhm.
all community involvement.
Mhm.
Every one of the things you've mentioned involves someone in the community with our schools, and I think that is very
That's why it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's good.
Great.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good evening. Brief report. Again, Power School numbers for the month, it should be 316, not 39, but again, 30-day window of our Power School users. Try to give you some updates, whether notifications have gone up or down. Again, monthly NCES meeting last Friday. Nothing really concrete to report, but still working on some closure on some topics from previous meetings. Like the chief said in his presentation, we have gone live with CopSync. And we just addressed that in our last safety meeting last Thursday. So we've finally pushed it forward into a live state until we do drills. Then we'll put it back into a test state and transition it that way. RFPs, just finalizing the ones for E-rate, which are pretty much done, and just gave a draft to the admin team for our office technology, which is our like copiers and print management. So that will be hopefully being posted by April. Probably leave it out until middle of May, and hopefully have a contract by June to be ready for July. So that's the time for that. And we had a drought with Chromebooks at Lakeway, but they finally arrived. So that's the second set of Chromebooks, and Matt, my assistant, is chipping away at those. So hopefully we'll get those up by fourth quarter. And then a workshop that's actually free for anybody in the NEA. They're going to host it here at Littleton High School on March 31st. It's a 4:30 to 6:30 workshop on Google Classroom. So what you saw here was the Connect Ed, which is kind of the same concept, but Google actually creates their own virtual classrooms where you can group your students into classes and do the same thing. You give them assignments and shared folders and things like that. So the presenter is Dana Folds from Winnisquam, and again, that's March 31st, Thursday, 4:30 to 6:30. And again, if you're a member of the NEA, it's free. So, and I addressed that at our NCS meeting for the other tech coordinators to bring that back to their school to anyone that wants to attend. So,
Okay.
Other than that, that's it.
Great.
Unless any questions.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just have one thing I left out on my report. I just want to mention it because I did thank Kitchener's, but also we had a fantastic donation from Bernie on some tooling as well. So,
Great.
Publicly thank Bernie.
Okay. Thank you, Burndies, and thank you, Hitchners.
Yeah, that was
turning the TV back on because I've got a couple of videos to show you. And I'm handing you the program from the North Country Film Festival. And it actually took place on Saturday in Lancaster. And actually, as I get all of this set up, just you can see our enrollment changed a little bit, and it continues to change. And our goals haven't changed, and we've had a very busy month. And let me get this plugged in. Okay, good. A little demonstration on technology. Over in the right is a text box that Mrs. Bromley just sent me the names of some of the Destination Imagination coaches to make sure I went over those with you, because she had forgotten to send me those today. So I got those right in the middle of Mr. Smith's presentation. So our goals haven't changed. I don't need to talk much about enrollment either. Let's jump right down to curriculum, staff, and development. So thank you for letting our 6th grade teachers and students share their enthusiasm and appreciation for the technology that they've been provided with. It certainly, I think, is making a difference in their classrooms. As Adam said, the 5th grade Chromebooks have arrived, and our technology committee met on March 14th with a representative from Apple because we're considering having iPads be the device for individual students in kindergarten and 1st grade. So that's progressing nicely. Our 6th grade leadership team put together a film to enter in the North Country School Film Festival. It's the first time this has occurred, and it happened, as I said, on Saturday. And inside the brochure you can see all of the schools that entered. And as you can see, one of the Oscars went to our Lakeway students.
Oh,
so
great.
they won an Oscar. So, Greg, if you pass that around. And I'm going to show you the video that they put together called Why Teachers Matter. Okay, how do I get this?
Volume record?
Yeah, volume, and then let's see, full screen too. Is that is not? Full screen. Here we go. And hopefully the volume will come up appropriately. Thank you.
This song is for those who inspire us today, who always lend a helping hand to help show us the way. This song is for those who see their students through.
Class, today we're going to find each other. Yeah, that's so awesome. Please breathe. What you need to see, we're finding the area quality.
So that was put together by our sixth grade leadership team with the assistance of Mrs. Bromley, who's the advisor for that team, and then also Amy Kopp, who's our librarian, and lastly, Lisa Harold was the one that discovered the contest and said, why don't we enter this? And she's our guidance counselor. So, so that was an exciting event, and they got the red carpet treatment and everything on Saturday. Let's see, what else? So I also have a very short video that Mr. Stewart put together. During winter program this year, Mr. Stewart introduced the ukulele to our students. And 3 of his students wrote a song, and they wanted to perform it for other students. And so the teachers signed up, and this is about a 1-minute presentation to Mrs. Bray's kindergarten class.
So for all those 1-minute rest of silence you guys have given me in music class, now we're going to give you a 1-minute song that these guys wrote in ukulele class. Okay? Guys ready? Everybody get your seat where you're okay? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4.
So they actually performed that for a number of the different classes. I also have another video that I want to show you about the recent Destination Imagination competition that took place at Potsdam State on March 12th. Lakeway actually entered 5 teams this year, so we've gone from initially 1 team about 4 years ago. Now we have 5 teams, so we have over 35 students actually participating in the program. And make sure I get the names of the coaches correctly. And so our coaches, in addition to Mrs. Bromley, are Heidi Hurley, Erin Hennessy, Emily Kelly, and Courtney and Eric Daffenroot. And so they all have teams. And the elementary school program just does K to 5. So 6th grade students would have to be part of a middle school team. So hopefully that will take place. So this is a video that Mrs. Hurley made and filmed it just on her iPhone. At the very beginning, you hear one of the judges kind of explaining the rules for the activity that the kids do.
Find their way off. So what they have to do is talk about directions, maps, compasses, changes. So is everyone ready? Is the audience ready? Are my appraisers ready? Yes. And is the team ready? Yes. You may begin.
Welcome to Philippines Island, Episode 1, Change Direction. I'm Mason Miller and I will be playing this game. I'm Ava Charles and I will be playing Philippines. My name is Ella Hirsch and I will be playing Mrs. Tower. My name is Martha Kids and I will be playing Midday. My name is Julia Ryan and I will be playing Julia. The three status of Philippines and I will be Terry Ann.
Now, those are second graders, right here. First and second graders. And in DI competitions, the students have to do almost everything. They write the scripts, they conceive of the whole script, and the coaches have a very small role. So you really have to appreciate that, this is, the teachers didn't, the parents didn't write all this out, the kids really do it all. And I think out of our 5 teams, 2 of them won the competition and are going to enter the state competition. So we're very proud to even have them do that well. So that's pretty exciting. A couple other things I know it's getting late. Our Staff Development Day presentation was by Mahesh Sharma, and it took place last Friday, and it focused on developing and remediating basic math skills. It was a very stimulating presentation. Dr. Sharma doesn't mince words. He's not here to hold your hand and compliment you, but he really challenges how we're teaching math. So we still have a lot to talk about amongst the staff. Also, most recent information for you, our state school safety inspection took place, and this is conducted by the Department of Labor. We're still waiting to get those results. We have a vacancy for a part-time custodian, had a recent resignation. Report cards went home on the 11th. 49 of our 59 fifth graders last Wednesday got a full day of skiing and lessons at Cannon Mountain, compliments of the Secret Sock Society. Literacy night took place for grades K to 2 last Thursday evening at Lakeway. We had over 300 parents and family members show up. Our FOL bingo night, which was originally scheduled for the night that the state basketball championship took place, we wisely rescheduled, and that'll take place on Friday, April 1st. And this Friday, we're having Literacy Character Spirit Day, and students and staff are encouraged to dress like their favorite character from literature. So if you have some free time on Friday, drop by.
Okay.
Costumes are pretty inventive, so thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Is there any facilities report, Rick?
Al, refresh me, have we had facilities since the last school board? Or? We did. I didn't prepare anything for facilities. Do you want to, is there anything you want to speak on?
Actually looking at our contracts for next year with all our vendors and
okay.
investigating some options, and so that we discussed that, and also discussed preparation for our work after July 1st.
Okay.
Get people lined up for the summer. And the other big project, the academy, scheduled to be demolished in April vacation still. And yes, the old SAU.
Yeah, the SAU, not the academy.
You mean the SAU, old SAU.
The white building?
The white building.
The White House?
What did I say?
You're ahead of yourself, Al.
We had a meeting on that.
Yes, Pat.
And
When is that happening now?
April vacation.
let me get the old SAU.
The old SAU.
April vacation.
All right.
And oil tanks are scheduled for the end of June.
Right.
Right.
And the gym floor has got some repairs coming up.
Jim, yeah, we had that water damage, and that's going to start April 4th.
Okay.
We'll tell you stuff.
All right. David?
Okay, I passed to the board, and I have for the audience an outline of activities. And I met with the administrator from the middle school, high school, the athletic directors, the director of Parks and Rec, CTC director, and the administrative assistant, at the request of a couple of board members on the facilities committee, to work out a communications protocol so that we can make more efficient use of our facilities and the sharing of those facilities with Park and Rec. We began a list of facilities maintenance needs, and I forgot to put on there, this is for the academy building, but these are issues that we have talked about for the 18 months that I've been here, and I think we need to continue talking about them because we're going to have to make some decisions going forward about what to do with the lights, the bleachers, the gym floor, the padding around the gym. We have a leak that needs repairing, and there's a question about a roof replacement over at the academy building. So the group decided that we needed to get this on the agenda and speak about it from time to time. The administration has been working with the instructional coaches. We've determined that our theme for 16-17 will be competency-based instruction, assessment, and reporting. And to that end, we have secured a nationally recognized expert in assessment and reporting, Robert Marzano, who will attend on August 25th, our Staff Development Day. And the way we are planning to coordinate staff development and dealing with competency-based instruction is to have a keynote in the beginning with in August, do most of our work during the school year on a building-based program so that we can tailor the information and the work to meet the needs of the people in the various schools. and then come together in June, sort of as a wrap-up and a reporting out of how far we have progressed. In terms of safety, we have proposals submitted for radios that we need and at least one repeater. And so we will review the proposals and have a recommendation at least by April 18th for purchase of radios. Labor Department have recommendations. They have been shared with the principals, and we are working to develop a response. There's some things that we can do right away. And Chief Smith shared with you that CopSync went live today. Superintendent's principal search, we have already discussed. I've been in contact with Fitzvote for an analysis of the food service program. Tom and I have spent considerable time communicating with them, finding out what their personnel policies are, what their benefits package is for taking any employees who want to come on board and to become Fitzvote employees.
Did they give you a time when you might expect that?
I want to have it by April 4th. I had a rather long conversation with the district director, talking about participation, talking about marketing, talking about his proposal that he made, that Tom mentioned last time, of a not to exceed support for the food service program. He forwarded to me the results of the parent, staff, student survey. I have looked at them, but I have not analyzed them. But this is all part of what I would like to bring to you on April 4th. And then finally, supervision and evaluation. As you know, the collective bargaining agreement included some rather extensive changes in the way supervision and evaluation is completed. And right now there were some forms that we were to use, and with the help of administration and the LTA, we drafted them. We have circulated the drafts. We're waiting right now for LTA to take them to ratification, and I'll bring them to the board, hopefully again on April 4th, just as soon as they are ready. So that is, in no small part, what I've been doing these days.
Okay, thank you. All right. Is that it? So do I hear a motion to go into non-public?
Sure, I'll make a motion to enter into non-public session under paragraph 2, section 3 of the RSA 91A:3 of the Right to Know law for numbers 2 and number 3. Number 2, the hiring of any person or as a public employee. And number 3, matters that would adversely affect the reputation of any person other than a member of the board, taking with us the superintendent.
And the business manager.
And the business manager.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Roll call vote.
Cook.
Wiggett.
Nelson.
Okay.
And before the administration goes, I would like to thank you for the very extensive presentations you made tonight, because it's giving us a real good flavor of what's going on in our schools.
Great. Thank you.
And the audience.